It seems like the biggest lie in the video gaming industry that has led to the destruction of multiple IPs and franchises and the introduction of ugly character designs and models has finally been exposed. I'm talking about this myth and lie and legend that the majority of gamers are female gamers. We had this myth kind of projected and promulgated after the Gamergate situation, where we kept hearing 50% of gamers are women and we need to cater to that 50%. And of course, this has led to the overall correction and change within the video game industry, where they're making a lot of games oriented in that direction. And I think ultimately we see this with the sequels of Last of Us, Fable, Spider-Man 2, and multitude of other titles that have desecrated their own franchises in pursuit of this mythical legend of this 50% demographic of women that are gaming. And we see this propagate throughout the gaming industry with this ugly character designs and overall look and play style that is not intended for game players in general, and it's made for a mass audience that doesn't play games. And I think that's what we're seeing in the gaming industry, and this lie has been pushed out for a couple years now, for the past few decades, where people have been perpetuating it with multitude of studies using the same background and methodology that has led to this conclusion, which is filled with errors. And you can go down to the understanding where you can see this kind of inclination to say this is 50% women, when you have these researchers saying that over 50% of gaming PCs are female owned, 52% of Switch consoles are female owned. I think that is a statistic that I will only slightly believe in, because that is more female oriented, at least the Switch, because it has these specific games that cater to a lot of female gamers. And I think it comes down to the type of games that you're playing. You can see this new poll from Capcom that kind of solidifies this thought process that it's not 50% women, it's more like 20% women are playing video games. You can see this with the super election results that has over 250,000 votes, solidifying and has a larger pool of people participating than some of these research statistics that we're seeing from these quantitative companies that are focused more on 1 to 5,000 people sample sizes. We have 250,000 people that voted on the things they most favored about Capcom, and of course the results came back with a resounding difference in people playing games. At least this population of gamers are focused on console games, and at least Capcom itself. And I think it is an accurate reflection of the core video gamer base, if you include console and PC games, and the most successful games that are achieving and growing franchises and console gaming systems. And you can see this reflected back in the population sizes that we have here, where you have 82% male voting for these super elections, with 14% female, of course 4% other, because we live in that type of world where there's going to be other nowadays. And I think this is the best reflection that I think I've seen so far of the statistics showing what type of people play video games. And it's always been like this for the past few years. Maybe it went down a little. I think beforehand was probably more closer to 85 to 90%, but now I think it's reasonable to say it's around 80% male gamers are playing these console games and PC games that are highly successful on any of these platforms. I'm talking about any first-person shooter, any sports game, any RPG action game. This is predominantly a male-dominated sphere, and I think that's the thing when people talk about gaming. We're talking about the games that people actually play that lead to the foundation and successful launch of entire franchises. And we're talking about the games like first-person shooter games like Call of Duty, like Fortnite, like Resident Evil, like Devil May Cry, all these games that are focused and gather attention for gaming. Final Fantasy, these games are predominantly played by a lot of male audience members. And I think that's the lie that we've been told for the past few years, that this is not the case, that it's not 82% male, it's 50% women that are playing these games, when it's clearly that is a skewed poll. And I'll tell you why that is a skewed poll, because they don't include the variance on what games that people are playing. If you're talking about Candy Crush, if you're talking about farming simulators, those are predominantly over 70% women. If you're going to console gaming in any form, or PC gaming, that's over 90% men are playing those games. And we have the statistics from a quantitative research company that shows that this myth of the 50-50 breakdown of gamers gamers is kind of out of whack with what's going on in reality, because what we see from gamers themselves, it's a variance on what type of games they're playing. If you're going to sports, first person shooter, RPG, you're going down to a lower statistic that is drastically different. You're going down to 2 to 10% women are playing those games rather than the 50% they're talking about. If you're talking about Candy Crush, mobile games, and farming simulators, you're going up to 70% women are playing those games, and they're using that 70% to make that balance of that is a 50-50% breakdown. And when you're looking at this as a video game developer, you're just hearing 50% women, so you're going to make your console game exactly catering to that demographic, when in actuality the people that are actually playing those games are not women. I think that's the thing that we're seeing being used as a weapon in the video gaming industry to convince developers to change and alter the games that they're producing. And I think this is the stat that we're seeing that is altering and removing some of the beauty features of a lot of these characters in video games. We see it with Stellar Blade, where a lot of companies thought that it was impossible for this game to be successful, but once it comes out, the players see the overall visuals of the character Eve, they're celebrating it, and it becomes one of the most successful games of the year based on tracking the real demographics of gamers, which is predominantly male. And I think we see this fact often in the gaming industry, and it's usually neglected. Now that we have these quantitative research polls that come out, we get more games like Spider-Man 2 that are trying to pander to what they think is a broader audience of people, when in actuality it's a small audience of people that were never going to play your game because they're playing Candy Crush, mobile games, and farming simulators because that's their interest. And we get these changes in the character designs based solely on this research saying, okay, women are insecure about this, we need to change these character designs and models. You have to look for this mythical crowd of people that want this change. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing in the gaming industry right now with new and old games like Horizon Zero Dawn, like the Star Wars game Rebels that's coming out, where we're getting these manly figures and overall changing perception of these characters based on influences from consultancy firms that are using this statistic as a weapon to change the minds of executives, telling them that we must pander to this audience and this audience wants this change. And I think that is a weapon that has kind of been destroyed with this election poll, with these Capcom polls, where they're polling their own audience and they're seeing, okay, the majority of our fan base is male, and the games that they like focus on gameplay and attractive characters. And that's the thing, this poll reveals what the game players actually want from their games. And it goes without exception that they want good gameplay with good character designs, beautiful character designs. And I think that's a shocking thing that Capcom is seeing right now. They did this poll as a fun thing, but I think they did this poll to see who are the gamers and what do they actually want from their games. And they're going to use these results maybe to change the direction of the company. And you can see the generation breakdown as well. Most game players are 20 to 30 to 40-year-old males that are playing games, and it is an overwhelming majority of people that are playing games in this way. And I think that's the thing people are seeing with this super election breakdown, where you see even the difference between the game players. What the female male game players are playing is completely different, and the attention is on different type of games, more story driven games or more simulator games. And I think that is the thing that is out of this world different from what people were expecting from this election results. And then you can see this kind of listed. They go down through all the elements of type of games people are wanting from country to country, and it's easily broken down in a simplified manner. I'm surprised people really like Mega Man. Just going over this itself, it seems like it's an interesting factoid that people are still dedicated to the Mega Man franchise, and the rankings are just giving out the basic favorite of characters. But I think this is a slick thing that Capcom is doing. It gives them verification of who's playing the games, what games are playing, what type of characters they like. It's more intuitive than we saw from the other researchers that are doing smaller sample size polls that are focused on specific demographics of people. I think this is more wide ranging and gives you the results that are more accurate to what people actually want to see in gaming. And it's just interesting to see this be put out there. And this is the part where they get the understanding of what game players really want. And you can see this. What do you look for in Capcom games? And the number one thing is exhilarating gameplay. And then the number 2 thing I think is going to be the thing that breaks any political progressive activist's mind, is that people are looking for unique and attractive characters in the gaming experience. And of course, I think this is the clear ranking of gamers here. That's why I say this is a more reliable poll, where we're hearing what gamers really want. They want fun gameplay, then they want something attractive to look at. And I think it goes down to understanding that this poll is more accurate than the polls that we've seen before. And I think that is the amazing thing that we're seeing right now, the breaking of the myth of this 50-50 myth that we're getting from these political activists. And I think that's what Capcom's super election does. It breaks that myth, and we see the breakdown of what people are interested in gaming, and none of the top 10 are political activism. You can see number 3 is unpredictable, exciting storyline, memorable and moving music. And of course, we go down to high difficulty levels. Superb graphics is way at the bottom at number 8. No one's really talking about that. This is the thing that they carry their weight on. A lot of these political activists, progressive video games that are with consultancy firms, they focus on graphics, saying this looks so realistic, when people don't really care about graphics or the realism of the look. They want something fun and attractive, and you can see that with this result. You can go down the list. Number 5, depth of repeat play. Number 6, high difficulty. Number 7, novel worldview. Number 8, graphics. Number 9, play with players worldwide. And number 10, first time experience. And these are the list of what people want. And number 1 and number 2 is always gameplay and attractiveness, and this breaks the mold for any research saying otherwise. But I think this is an excellent poll. I think it gives you the realistic viewpoints of the gamers, and let's see if it changes Capcom in any way. But you leave a comment, tell me what you think about this situation. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I think this is an accurate poll, but maybe you don't believe it. Leave your thoughts, comments, like, share, and subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.